G'day YouTube, Warbles on a lot here for a second video about this SunGas project. This is the third version. I did a test run yesterday where I used a pipe venting straight up, but the problem was it started blowing bubbles, spouts of very dark coloured water, and the dark coloured water was kind of corrosive on the mirror, so I decided to put a water trap in there. So this is the variable that happens on the third run. The major variables on yesterday's run were that I did a bit of a better job applying the lamp black to the bottom of the gas canister, and I put some more work into the insulating jacket, which, as you can see now, has a double wall around it, and it actually has a triple layered lid to try and reduce the amount of heat loss. And by the way, for those of you who take an interest in such things, the base diameter of the Milo tin, 7.5 centimetres, so 44.1 square centimetres base area, 574 cubic centimetres interior volume. The offset parabolic reflector, 66 centimetres across, 75 centimetres long. So it's 0.3905 of a square metre. Therefore, thus and because, you're looking at around about 351 watts, or roughly half a horsepower of raw heat. I've pre-split the charge, which is sitting at 34 degrees Celsius in the sun. So we take the wood and we take our electronic scales, and that's 13.1 grams of wood. And we sort of know that for a fact. So we write that down and we put it in the tin. 10.1. And again we write it down. Look at that. 20.5 with a big knot in it, with the knot put down at the bottom of the tin. 11.1. And now 4.6, it fits. 2.7, it fits too, and I think we'll have to leave these few. And now we apply the lamp black. Like so. When I was first using this little half horsepower parabolic reflector, it doubled the efficiency of the coffee percolator when I blacked its bottom. I'm going to work on having a black cast iron gasifier pot at some point, so I don't have to keep doing this, because at the moment you've got to redo it every run. So now the black bottomed can is put in place, and then the lid can be put on place, the straining strap tightened, insulation emplaced to try and keep in as much heat as is possible, likey so. Okay, so we're starting at 11:09. finally we got something like a bit of heat on it. Well, that was a bit more of a struggle than I expected, but anyway, here's the view from the sunny side, and this gives you a view of the business end of the gasifier, as well as the bottom of the bottle to catch any water, as well as the top of the flare tube to see any steam that might be coming out of it, which should be sometime soon. And you'll notice that the lamp black has already started to burn off the bottom. So I shall come back when something interesting happens. At the moment, well, yeah, we've been running for about 4 minutes, if you'll include the pantomime while I got the damn thing to line up and sit still. I do note that the bottle is beginning to fill with white fumes, so that can't be a bad sign. I'm not sure if that's shown on camera, but I can actually see a plume falling out of the inlet tube and going down to the bottom. Quite cute. There's a definite thickening. Going on. You can now see 2 different concentrated spots of heat which have burnt the lamp black off the bottom of the gasifier canister. And the first wisps are starting to come out of the flare tube. You can see the stream of gas emerging from the inlet pipe, and we're at the 10-minute mark, but we've got a fair bit of wind, so effectively we've got an air-cooled solar gasifier, so it's taken its own sweet time to come up to operating temperature. But of course the slow start could also have something to do with the fact that there's nearly 100 grams of wood in there at the moment, whereas yesterday's test there was only 61 grams at the start. We now have a small but steady efflux of what's probably steam at this stage. It's certainly visibly going into the glass jar, more visible at some angles than others. Okay, well, it's what are we looking at here? 12:30. I've been having a bit of a fight with this thing, sorting out the alignment and the angles of the dangles, but we'll see how we go. Okay, well, we are now back in business, and that looks a little bit better, at least to judge by the steam in the glass. And we have also got the first little bits of water and tar. So we shall see what we shall see at 25 to 1. 12 minutes to 1. The glass is full of milkiness. I've put a little sun shield on there to try and keep the glass cool. And yeah, there's faint little wisps of steam or gas or something coming out of there, so I'm guessing the extra insulation and closing up of all the heat leaks is actually making things work a little tiny bit better. I added more isolation after fitting the hood in place. T-cozy, I suppose you could call it. Basically, what this rig is demonstrating is that 0.4 of a square metre of parabolic dish is not enough to generate sufficient heat to pyrolyse half a litre of wood. It heats it up, and it does have some effect, but I don't think it's going to make much charcoal. I'm pretty sure I just put too much wood in there as well. But anyway, it's a learning curve. I think if I get enthusiastic enough to try this again with the 1.2 metre dish, I might try a 1 litre container. Although to be on the safe side, maybe it'd be better to try the exact same size gasifier with 3 times the reflector area and see what happens. Lots of adjustments need to be done. Oh, that's a great fun way to spend the day. Depending, of course, on your definition of fun. Okay, 1 o'clock, and you can fairly clearly see the gas falling out of the intake pipe and forming a thick layer in the bottom of the glass. Which I count as something of a success. I suppose small things amuse small minds, eh? And now it started to drip drops. Particularly when the wind calms down and the canister warms up a bit. There you go, there was a drop at 1:30. Okay, well, it's 2 o'clock and it's still going strong. But it won't be for long because there's the shadow approaching. But at the moment, we still have sun on the mirror and we still have concentrated sunlight on the bottom of the gasifier. And the swamp wallaby is apparently interested in what we have precipitated. One thing I am able to say with a bit of confidence is that we've succeeded in driving off some water and precipitating some oil, and the oil is floating on top of the water. As you can see, it's sitting there in the collection glass, while the inlet pipe is actually kind of blowing smoke rings. And the shadow horizon approacheth at 7 minutes past 2. In the view of the kangaroo. There you go, the first shadow on the dish. 11 minutes past 2. 10 minutes later, pretty much the whole dish is in shade. A 100 and something degrees. So it turns out that wind is a problem. Ciao.